Thanks everybody for coming today, especially some of the young scholars. Research can be super exciting and give you a great chance to make a difference. So, think about that and maybe get involved with something. Okay, so we're from the Millet Project. I'm Becky, this is Pedro, and we started kind of as a response to the California drought that was ongoing. So 2012 to 2015, the state becomes progressively more engulfed in drought. This had serious economic consequences. California produces over 10% of the nation's food, and with the drought, fields were being left unplanted. There was a lot of economic loss of jobs, and it was a really big problem for the state. Challenges with irrigation. And so in the midst of this, and in the midst of a changing climate, there was a lot of conversation over what can and what should be done to mitigate the effects of drought like this. And so the solution that our group focuses on is finding a drought-resistant alternative to some of the things being grown. So this landscape, in terms of grains, is dominated by maize, rice, and wheat. Maize, rice, and wheat consist of 89% of the world's grain production. And so as a consequence of this, we see lots of monocultures, which make it easier for disease to spread, loss of diversity on the farms, and lots of inputs needed and extensive irrigation systems. So on the graph on the right, for worldwide grain production, millet is really low. And it's not that we necessarily want to see maize, rice, and wheat go away, but we'd love to see the bar for millet come up quite a bit, and barley and sorghum too. So why are we interested in millets? So they're beautiful, they're diverse. I've got my basket right here. There's lots of different varieties. Millets have been cultivated for over 10,000 years, and they've been spread out through the globe. So over that time, evolution has allowed millets to become really well adapted to different environments. So when we're talking about drought, there are lots of varieties of millet that evolved to survive really drought-ridden conditions. So there's lots of drought-tolerant varieties. There's currently about 4 varieties being grown in the US, and we'd love to see that increase. There's a short crop cycle, so in a lot of countries you can get 2 or 3 or even 4 rounds of millet harvest in a year. And they're really nutritious. They have a lot of nutritional diversity, low carbohydrate content, they're gluten-free, and they can be grown for crop, for forage, and for grain. So we think that millets are a really exciting grain for the future, especially in the changing climate. And so to get people to eat more millets, we take a threefold approach. The first is that we want people to learn more about the grain. It exists. Now everybody knows. And it's not just for birds. It's popularly used as bird food, but it's really good for humans too. So we want to do a lot of education and outreach to help people learn more about millets. And as people learn more about millets, we think that they'll start to consume millets more, whether that's buying products with millets at the grocery store or cooking with it themselves. We think that that's really important and exciting. And as consumers eat more millets, then farmers will cultivate more millets because there will be an increased demand. So we see this as a triangle that feeds on itself. And as there's more farmers producing millet, then there's more on the market, and it becomes incorporated more and more into our food system.
Okay, so we wanted to approach the 3 vertices of the triangle in different ways. From the farming perspective, we have been using the farm at the Gill Tract in Albany to grow different types of millet. And because, as Becky mentioned, millets are known to be drought tolerant, we wanted to test different irrigation schemes and see how the plants would respond in terms of growth. And we got a lot of data. I'm just presenting 2 graphs just to give you a flavor of what we do. So we came up with these 3 conditions that we called drought, reduced water, and full water. And then at the end of the growing season, we took measurements from different parameters on the plants. For instance, here I'm showing the length of the ears or the inflorescence of the plants or the number of ears per plant. And we grew different species. We started with 4 types in 2015, and last year we expanded that to 6 or 7. And I'm showing here that, for instance, this is one of our favorite varieties that is called Pearl Millet. And as you see on the left, there was not much different on the size of the ears in the 3 different watering conditions. So this is how the fields look like at the gill tract. So we have different varieties that you can see here in this photo. And we also have pictures for our intermediate condition that we call semi-drought, and also for our drought rows. And one conclusion that we got was that it seems that water it's important, at least in the initial germination, for the initial germination stages of growth. But what you can see here is that even in complete drought conditions, the plants still grow quite well. And if you go to the intermediate condition, they grow almost as well as the full water. We also had the chance to collaborate with this amazing group of farmers across all of California. And they were kind enough to grow different types of millet for us. So one of the goals of the project was also to compare growing conditions and how well millets would grow in different locations. And we also went to some of these farms after the growing season, and we got measurements. And this is just, again, to give you a flavor of what we did. We are here comparing 3 different farms, our own plot here in Albany, and 1 farm in Bolinas, and 1 in Healdsburg. And again, we looked at different types of millet and different parameters, like in this case, the length of the ears. So in terms of outreach, our biggest effort is the Millet Project exhibit that we have organized twice in the last 2 years. And it's a day where we, when we open the doors of our farm in Albany, and it's for free, and it's open to the whole community, and people can come and they can interact with farmers who farm with millet. They can go on a guided tour on the fields. They can see the millets, they can touch them and see how they look like in reality. And they had the chance to try different foods made with millet. We had millet patties. We had also millet beer. So this was in 2015. This is one of the tours to the fields. We had it again last year, and it was a big success, I think. And we had more than 300 people who came to see our work. And people can also learn about millet if they use our online resources. We have a website, and of course we have our Facebook and Twitter accounts where people can also virtually interact with us. And we've also participated in other outreach events, namely this one at the California Academy of the Sciences. We've been there twice, actually, back in 2016. They have this event every Thursday night that they call the Nightlife, and we went there, and there was a lot of interest in our project and lots of interesting questions. And finally, what we want is that people cook with millets. As Becky said, millet is not good just for birds, it's also good for people, and it's a very versatile ingredient. You can use it in savory dishes, in desserts, and we have a list of recipes on our website. And we have people who contact us and they say, I've made this with millet, I would like to add this to your website, and it's great. And more recently, we have been also been trying to come up with our own product, so that's something that's underway. And of course, the question now is, who's cooking with millets? And obviously, the answer is you are. And just to wrap up, we are very thankful to the Berkeley Food Institute for the constant support. And this is the list of people who have been involved in the project over the course of these 3 years. We have undergrads, grad students, postdocs, and faculty members that have been involved in the project. And it's a very enjoyable team to work with. And I think we are all very happy. And we'll take questions.
Thank you so much, Pedro and Becky, for that really great presentation. And we've also been really excited to watch the evolution of this project at the Berkeley Food Institute because it's also engaged people from the business school. A number of students have gotten really involved in some of the innovations that you're coming up with cooking and the consumption side of things. So it's just been a really interesting collaboration. Also, one of the first people to start the project was Amrita Hazra, who's now a professor in India, but she was a postdoc here when we started the project. So it's been great to have that international connection.
And the Millet project is alive and well in India. Amrita is still going full speed ahead.
Yes, great. So any questions, please?
Hey, so is there like data amongst people who have done lots of cooking with millet and who've eaten a lot as to like what they prefer between millet and wheat and barley and corn, and like amongst all those things, like whether or not millet ranks like super high in the things they like to use?
Yeah. So a lot of that, it turns out, is cultural. Millet it was a staple food for a long time in countries like India, but it kind of got a reputation for being a poor person's food, and so that's part of the work in India, is bringing it back as something that is cool and hip to cook with, and kind of like quinoa, following that same trend. So I think, cheaper. I don't know if I don't have any data on what people prefer to cook with. Anecdotally, I think on our team, I cook a lot more with millet than I used to, but I still cook with other grains too. So I think it's the more diversity we can get in our diets, the better.
And we do have some data that, so when we had these two exhibits, 2015 and... So I was saying that we do have some data on these communities' preference towards different grains, because we used the two exhibits that we had as an opportunity to present a quick survey to our visitors where they could inform us about their grain preferences. We have some data.
How accessible is millet in grocery stores? I mean, even just within the Bay Area, and how expensive is it relative to close alternatives?
Okay, so millet is one of the cheapest grains you'll find in grocery stores, and it's much more accessible than people think. So here in the Bay Area, you can find it in several grocery stores, normally in the bulk section, or packaged normally from Bob's Red Mill. That's normally the more popular brand that sells millet.
But at the Berkeley Bowl in the bulk section, it's about $1.30 per pound. So it's cheaper than, the quinoa that I'm buying, the rice I'm buying. It's really affordable.
Hi. So considering that humans tend to be short-sighted and the mainstream message that's out there after this winter is that the drought is over in California, how has the message been being received since that? Have you seen a change? Is it more negatively received as a drought plant, or?
I think that especially in the Bay Area, where we talk to the most people, there's enough recognition that climate change is real and that the drought might be over this time, but that weather patterns are going to become more severe. And that also there's a lot of regions of the world where it is just always dry, and that this is an important solution all the time. So maybe some of the urgency has gone away, but I think that people, at least especially in the Bay Area, are logical enough to understand that. Sorry, no shade on anybody else. So in the Bay Area, the message continues to be received well. Other places, I'm sure too. But.
Yeah, and as Becky said, we started this collaboration recently with a group in Washington, and they have done field trials in very far locations like Rwanda, where it's dry. So we think that our results and our awareness, the awareness that we promote, is not just strictly important for our community. We want to expand, and as Becky said, we have this extension in India, and we want to take it far.
Great. Well, thank you so much.